The three homages. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Good morning and welcome to everyone, especially people I haven't seen in a long time. It's super exciting. So thank you for being here. And everyone's welcome at Reno Buddhist Center, and you're welcome just as you are. Everyone's okay, just as they are. This morning we will chant the Shoshinge, which is in the seat back pocket in front of you. And it's our verses of true faith written by our founder Shinran Shonin, the picture of the monk at the top, over 850 years ago in Japan. And you chant it in vertical columns from right to left. So you might get a little lost if you try to do it as we read English. And it's okay to just sit and listen and absorb the chanting. It's all about our 7 masters of Pure Land Buddhism and the infinite wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. So there's nothing strange or untoward in this chant. It's all good. So when we chant the Shoshinge, we also offer incense to the infinite wisdom and compassion that surrounds us all. And it's just a small gift in gratitude to how we are supported in our lives. So it's important to have that mindset of gratitude, however often you can muster that. We all have things to be grateful for. So it's a reminder to do that at the temple. And then we have other altars. We have the Kannon altar, the altar of compassion. If you need to cultivate a little more compassion for yourself or others, please light a candle at the Kannon altar. And here, if you need a little extra healing energy, or you can send that out to a loved one, the Medicine Buddha altar helps to cultivate that healing energy. So please do these offerings with an open heart and deep gratitude to all of our teachers. Thank you. 昇進へ。奇妙無量寿如来。
ナム不可思議故法蔵菩薩院に寺財政自在応部所刀剣勝負浄土院国土人伝自然幕建立無常主将願長法慶右大偶勢高校死唯死小樹十世妙正文字法不法無量無変更無芸無体公縁の少女歓喜知恵子不断難死無所故超日が交渉人生一切群上無交渉本願名号少女語死心信行願に因上等学章大涅槃非死滅道願成就如来所意公主世唯世弥陀本願会五辱悪事群上会往生如来両実言の法一年喜愛心不動本の特涅槃門正逆法再永流入手死入海一味聖主信仰上昇後意の水波無明暗本来心臓死運無上不信自信人天非如に幸福運無運無死下妙無暗逆心謙虚大狂気即応超税後悪臭一切全幕本部人門心如来偶勢願仏言古代諸芸者聖人名分打理家大部本元年部邪見表魔なく修上信行十字人に南中死な昔インド最天使論芸中華自治一期思考層現代諸公正所意妙如来本税大き釈迦如来両河線一種五妙難天軸流樹大事出頭世実の財派有無権先世大乗無情法召喚議事小安楽賢治難行六六信行異行指導楽億年弥陀部本願人年即時流筆上唯の上昇如来語王法大悲偶勢音天神菩薩増論世奇妙無下根如来平修他ら謙信寺宝泉王朝大誓願東遊本願力栄根移動群上小維新記入功徳大法会筆脈入大永修修特使蓮華造世界即小信用法小信有本の人間人図有生自音自王芸本自動乱両天使上古乱小菩薩来三蔵ルシ十上教本書専業気楽法天神菩薩論中芸
報道員が県政願方言栄光ゆたりき少女死因唯新人枠前本部新人法承知所持即内藩非死無料公明道小雨修上回復系同社継承道南省有名浄土活入万全自力変言宗変満特語感染症不三心軽音言増魔法明道非因異生増枠地偶性思案妖怪称名化全道独名部所意公愛上三両逆枠公明名語県因年介入本願大地会行者小樹今後心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即所法所市上楽原神公開一大教偏気安養管理祭先祖出身反戦人法家二道小弁60億人唯勝部火薬剤非正集中煩悩証言水不見大非無権上昇が本次元空明仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現代生じ臨伝芸慶地義上位少子即入落上無意楽非知信寺に納入仏教大事修士と上妻無変極直悪同族自主具道心唯家心し高祖聖ナムアミダハブナムアミダハブナムアミダハブナムアミダブナムアミダハブナムミダジョブのこの方は今に自己をへたまえり星の氷やぬきわもなくせのもみょうを照らすなりナムアミダ ミダブナムは阿弥陀仏ナムは阿弥陀仏ナムは阿弥陀仏ナムは阿弥陀仏ナム枝の降臨気はもなし高速かむるものはみな有無を離ると述べたもおう平等確に奇妙せよ栄光願にし功徳平等聖祭道本菩提心往生は安楽法ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナモナムスナモナムスナモナムス
We would like to invite any children who would like to enjoy Dharma school to go with Reverend Shelley to the Haroma Hall to make snakes. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm reading this morning selections from the Sutra on Knowing the Better Way to Catch a Snake. Thus, I have heard, at one time when the Buddha was staying at Anathapindika's monastery near Shravasti, the student Arita misunderstood the teachings of the Buddha and thought that indulging in sensuality was not an obstacle to Dharma practice. Fellow students heard this and asked Arita if he really believed it. He responded, "Yes, I do." The brothers scolded him. "Arita, you misrepresent the Buddha's teachings. Please abandon this wrong view." 3 times they asked, and 3 times he refused, saying he was right and they were wrong. So they went to the Buddha and asked what to do. The Buddha invited Arita to come and talk, and Arita came right away. The Buddha asked, "Is this true? You have been saying that I teach that indulging in sensuality is not an obstacle to practice?" Arita replied, "Yes, teacher. I believe that in accord with the spirit of your teachings, indulging in sensuality is not an obstacle to practice." The Buddha admonished him, "Arita, when have I ever taught that indulgence is not an obstacle to practice? And who has told you this? You are not correct. You should drop this wrong view." The Buddha then asked the other students, "Have you ever heard me teach that indulgence is not an obstacle to practice?" They replied, "No, we have not." Then Buddha asked, "What have you heard me teach?" And they replied, "Teacher, you have said that indulgence in sensuality is like a piece of raw meat, a straw torch, a pit of burning charcoal, a poisonous snake, a deluded dream, or borrowed belongings." Buddha said, "That is correct, what I have always taught. They are an obstacle to practice." Arita, you have misunderstood both the letter and the spirit of my teachings. You believe the opposite of what I intended. You have misrepresented and even slandered me, and you have done harm to yourself and others. Hearing the teacher's reprimand, Arita bowed his head in silence. He was hurt and upset and could think of nothing to say. After admonishing Arita, the Buddha used the opportunity to teach all of the students. It is important to understand my Dharma thoroughly before you put it into practice or teach. If you do not understand any teaching I give, ask me, or one excellent in Dharma practice. There are always some people who do not understand the letter or the spirit of a teaching, or one excellent in Dharma practice. Some take it the opposite way of what it was intended. Whether the teachings are offered in verse, prose, predictions, metaphors, Jataka stories, or detailed commentaries, there are always some people who study for the wrong reason, with misguided motivation. They miss the true spirit of the teaching. A person who studies that way can be compared to a man trying to catch a poisonous snake. If he reaches for the tail, the snake may bite his hand or leg. Catching a snake that way can only create trouble. Understanding my teaching in the wrong way is the same if you do not practice the Dharma with just right understanding. You think it is the opposite of what was intended, but if you practice intelligently, you can understand both the letter and the spirit of the teachings and will be able to explain them correctly. We do not practice to show off in argument with others. We practice to attain freedom and peace. A good student of the Dharma is like a man who uses a forked stick to catch a snake. He places the stick right behind the head and grabs the snake's neck with his hand. Even if the snake winds itself around the man's arm, it cannot bite him. This is the better way to catch a snake and will not lead to any suffering. Any child of good family who studies the Dharma needs to apply wisdom to understand the spirit of the teachings, apply intelligence to understand the letter of the teaching, study only with the aim of attaining freedom and peace. Upon hearing this, one student stood up, joined palms respectfully, and asked, "Teacher, can fear and anxiety arise from inside us?" And the Buddha replied, "Yes, they can. If you think things have their own particular existence, you will feel sad or become confused and despairing. This is how fear and anxiety can arise from an internal source, from your own thoughts." The same student then asked, "Can we prevent this?" The Buddha said, "It can be prevented if you do not think in this way." Teacher, can fear and anxiety arise from outside of us? Yes, they can. If you believe I am a self, this is the world, this is myself, I will exist forever. Then, when you meet a Buddha who teaches you to let go of all these views and to let go all attachments to body, self, and objects, and they suggest you give up pride, prejudgment, and other energy leaks, then you may think, "This is the end of the world. I have to give up everything. I am not the world. I am not me. I will not exist forever. When I die, I will be completely annihilated. There is nothing to look forward to, no joy, no memory. You will feel sad and become confused and despairing. This is how fear and anxiety can arise from outside of you." Teacher, how can this be prevented? Buddha explained, it can be prevented from arising if you are not attached to views of self and the world. If you give up pride, prejudgment, and other energy leaks, realize this is not the end of the world. I have given up nothing. I never was the world, not me, not mine. Everything continues and changes. Nothing is ever completely annihilated. Then, every moment will be something to look forward to be joyful about, and to experience in the moment. You will feel joy and clarity and freedom. This is how we prevent fear and anxiety from outside of you. Hearing these words, the student praised and thanked the Buddha, completely accepting the teacher's teaching, and then sat silent. The Buddha concluded, if you meditate on the false foundations of wrong views, you will not give rise to the idea of I or mine, and will not be caught in the chains of this life. Since you are not caught, you have no fear. To have no fear is to arrive at nirvana, freedom. There, you are no longer troubled by birth and death. The spiritual life has been fulfilled. What needs to be done has been done. There will be no further births or deaths, and the truth of things as they are is known. Such a student has filled in the moat, reached the other shore, destroyed the enemy's citadel, unlocked the door, and looks directly into the mirror of highest understanding. These true teachings have been illuminated and made available in the worlds of humans and gods. Nothing is lacking. Having heard the Buddha speak thus, the students, with great joy, put the teachings into practice. We will now have a few minutes of meditation, accompanied by music.
Happy to see you all today. I know last time some people in the back couldn't really hear me, so I'm hoping that you can hear me now. Got a thumbs up from George, so I know you can hear me. And I am just so happy to see you all today. I can't believe it's September. It's disorienting how fast that happened. But here we are. And the big holiday weekend, usually kind of a low-key Sunday because the fun times of summer are waning away, slipping away, and people are off and gone doing different things. But not you. You have braved the heat and made the effort to be here. I commend you. And new folks who are here today, welcome and great job. It takes real courage to come to a new place and experience new ideas there. So, you're very welcome. That sutra has a lot of interesting bits in it. It's a bit longer than we shared, and editing is always a challenge when you find selections from the sutra, but to make it hold together. So some parts are a little spiky, and other parts are almost mysterious, which is wonderful. When we study the Buddha's teachings, it is important to be careful, to develop a clear understanding. If we misunderstand, it is not only unfair to the Buddha, it can actually be unfortunate for ourselves and others. The reason to study the Dharma is not just to gain knowledge or argue about it. The only reason to study the Dharma is to put it into practice. The teachings of non-self and nirvana are deep and wonderful, but they are quite easy to misunderstand. My teacher, Dr. Matsunaga, pictured over there, he was a very joyful guy. When he sat here, he would always be kind of jumping up all the time because the Dharma was so exciting to him. But when he studied, he was sincere and quite serious. So, we should too be serious about it. When the Buddha was teaching 2,600 years ago, even some of his students then misunderstood, as we heard in the sutra. But now it's probably more likely to misunderstand. We don't think of the Buddha's teachings as a philosophy. No. That would just be an idea system with no practical purpose. If the Dharma teachings are not useful, they are nothing. They are, in fact, a means, a path, a raft to help us get across the river of suffering, we say, to the other shore of peace and freedom. In the sutra on knowing the better way to catch a snake, the Buddha tells us to use great care and real skill while studying and practicing the teachings. He uses two wonderful examples: catching a snake properly and giving up a raft after you've crossed a river. Those are the two big metaphors that make this sutra kind of famous. So, I was away last weekend, a quiet retreat by a mountain lake. When I was walking on that grassy shore of the lake, I saw a little snake moving in the grass. I reached down and grabbed its tail. It quickly felt my presence and swung around toward my hand, little mouth wide open, tiny needle fangs showing. I dropped it right there, and it slithered a little more, and I tried again. This time I grasped the snake amidships. Same problem. Head comes around, tail wraps around. I let go again. Finally, I reached for the neck, having learned something from the sutra. But the snake slithered off and swam across the lake. So, he was out of reach. There could be a whole sutra on the better way to not get caught if you're a snake, but that's a different thing. the Naga king could ask the Buddha to teach that sutra. I probably would not have done any of this if I had not been reading the sutra, but as soon as the snake arrived, I couldn't resist kind of experiencing the other side of the non-symbolic part of the metaphor. So, in the sutra, this is a Dharma talk about a sutra, so it's always going to go back to the sutra. Our main character, the Venerable Arita, he seems confused. He must have heard the Buddha talk about the joy and happiness of a mind at peace, but he seems not to have understood the difference between indulging in sense pleasures that lead to attachments and the joy and happiness of a peaceful mind. So, probably there were other students who misunderstood in the opposite direction, being afraid of both sensual pleasure and the joy of a peaceful mind. Today, there are still Buddhists who reject joy and happiness. They don't dare appreciate the beautiful and wonderful things of life because they've heard that all things are impermanent and contain suffering. This is the other side of the same leaf, the other extreme. We should appreciate the beauty of a newly blossomed flower or a magnificent sunset, even more so with full awareness that things are impermanent, subject to suffering, and empty of separateness. In many sutras, the Buddha does just this. Mountain vistas, majestic sunsets often bring him great joy. But Arita must have been unable to see the line between overindulging in sensuality and experiencing these joyful spiritual moments. So he wrongly concluded that nothing pleasurable is an obstacle to practice. The Buddha had to correct him. The Buddha taught this way: students, it is important to understand my teachings thoroughly before you teach or put them into practice. If you have not understood the meaning of any teaching I give, please ask me or one who is excellent in the practice. There are two big reasons why someone might misunderstand the teaching of the Buddha in this opposite way. One is a lack of insight or skill. If we're not accurate and rigorous in how we read the letter and the spirit of the Dharma. The other is if we are motivated by wanting something, wanting to gain knowledge, wanting to win arguments, wanting to be a spiritual big shot. You seem dubious, but I mean, it happens. People who study Buddhism just to collect knowledge have lost sight of its only purpose: liberation, freedom, and peace. The only reason to study the Dharma is to live it in practice. So the Buddha talked about a snake. Learning the Dharma is like picking up a snake. This kind of suggests the Dharma is dangerous in some way. The danger is really in how we grasp it, like a snake. If you grab it in the middle, snake head writhes around and tries to bite you. Tail wraps around whatever it can. If you grasp it by the tail, again, head seeks out something to bite. The snake metaphor suggests the danger we risk when we study the sutras without skill and insight. In the sutra, there is another classic metaphor, that of the raft. It shows how we can get caught, even in the teachings. This part of the sutra goes like this: students, I have told you many times the importance of knowing when it is time to let go of a raft and not hold on to it unnecessarily. When you want to get across a river, you might think, what is the safest way to cross? You decide to gather branches and vines, make a raft, and use it to cross to the other shore. But after arriving on the other shore, you think, I have spent a lot of time and energy building this raft. It is my prized possession. I will carry it with me as I continue my journey overland. If you put it over your shoulder and carry it with you on dry land, that would not be skillful. Better to leave it there. This raft, and you can think, this raft helped me get across the water safely. Now I will leave it at the water's edge, for it is of no use on dry land. It is even, end quote, it is even necessary to let go of the true teachings, not to mention untrue teachings. The Buddha teaches about impermanence, non-self, emptiness, nirvana, not as theories, but as skillful means to help us practice. If we take the Dharma teachings and use them as theories, we are trapped. That is not the intention or their purpose. Some people study Buddhism only from a thirst for knowledge. Maybe they pride themselves on understanding difficult Buddhist concepts. Here, the snake has clearly taken a bite. Another teaching that sometimes bites is non-self. When we realize the true nature of non-self, we can let go of all the foundations of fixed views. We no longer need to cling to or identify with anything. And we will no longer fall into confusion or anxiety or sadness. What the Buddha called the thicket of views, kind of trap. To properly receive the teachings of non-self, we need to use all our ability and skill, even our imagination. If we don't, non-self can cause us confusion and anxiety. If we receive the teachings of non-self incorrectly, we may think that they're all about nihilism or nothingness, destruction. Kind of like they're saying, you're not real. Well, that's confusing. I feel real. So then, hearing that, we would have experienced despair that could be overwhelming. For example, we might believe that the world is self and that we are self and that we will endure as long as the world endures. People think that. And when we hear a Buddhist teacher explain and elucidate non-self, we may not be ready for it. We will immediately fall into confusion, shock. From being caught in the view that everything exists, we might descend into a view that nothing exists. From being caught in the view that everything is permanent to nothing really exists. This is an error. And we even hear modern Buddhist teachers talking about this. So, even though non-self is not about nihilism or destruction, if we receive them as though they are, we have caught the snake by the tail, and we will be bit. There is a simple way to explain non-self. Here it goes. There is no single entity whose identity is changeless. All things are constantly changing. Nothing endures forever or contains a changeless element called self. Instead, what we think of as a self-contained self is really a changeful bundle of habit energies morphing and becoming in each moment. This is freeing because it is accurate. That explains so much. In the sutra, the Buddha gives examples of how many people have misunderstood non-self. Everything that constitutes us, the five aggregates and the world, everything is subject to change, anicca. But remember, the Buddha never taught that those five aggregates and the world are non-existing. When the five aggregates flow together, that is existing. That's what existing is. Though impermanent and without self. The essence of existence is impermanence and selflessness. So, it cannot be described as being or not being. Things are not eternal, and they are not subject to annihilation. They are something in between. This is the Buddhist teaching of the middle way. The following passage from the Sutra on the Middle Way kind of clarifies this. When someone observes the coming to be in the world, he is caught in the idea that the world exists. When he observes fading away in the world, he is caught in the idea that the world does not exist. Kachayana. These are two extreme views, the view of being and the view of non-being. The Buddha is not caught by either view. He teaches the Dharma of the middle way. Eternalism is a snake bite. Nihilism is a snake bite. Reality lives somewhere in between. To close, we want to take care how we grasp the snake. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you gain Dharma understanding. Ask questions. Raft building, like snake catching, is a delicate matter. It is a serious life and death matter. As we build our raft to cross to the other shore, ask questions. The answers to the questions become the material we fashion the raft from. Self-examination and questioning is the best course. As the sutra says, those are the mirror of highest understanding. So, the Buddha advises us that we should not be bitten by the snake of misunderstanding. Misunderstanding the Buddha's joyfulness can bite you. That's what bit Arita. Misunderstanding non-self can bite you. Misunderstanding why we build a raft can bite. Misunderstanding nirvana can bite. The Buddha taught this sutra on many levels. He wanted to help Arita and others, I'm sure, in that moment, but it was also given for all of us to experience and consider and take in. It was given so that we all can grow on our spiritual journey and find that place of serenity and joy the Buddha offers. This is the Buddha's great wish. Let's join in offering this wish for all beings. Repeat after me. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you. At this point, we usually sing our Reno Buddhist Center theme song. I would encourage you to find the little book in the seat back pocket on page 49. If you would stand, we can sing it together. Thank you. Did you see I turned off the lights in the back so it would seem cooler? It's a little cooler that way. So I only have a couple announcements, really 3. Well, seemed to be sitting on my announcement sheet. I could not get it. Most important, there are tea and treats downstairs, and we can have a conversation. There's a newcomer circle, so if you're new and you have questions, you might have noticed that Buddha suggested asking questions was useful. We can just go through these doors, circle around to the hall directly beneath us, and participate in the newcomer circle. There's some other announcements. Things happen during the week. Read those on this sheet. But in the box on the side, there's a post-it that says I'm really supposed to remember these. Our Sangha picnic is on Saturday, September 10th, which I think is the next Saturday that happens, from noon until 2 here at the temple. So details are in the announcement. Another announcement is that we will be holding our periodic Building Your Own Memorial Service seminar on Saturday, September 17th, which is the following Saturday, from 10 to 1. And that is important. If you think you are not going to die, you need not come to it. But if you are likely to die sometime, I would really recommend it. Often we will have kind of the white-haired crew come, but really everyone should consider this. We do not know when these things will occur, and if we can write down our favorite song that we want to have at our memorial service, and kind of all these guidance things for our family or for the friends that end up being stuck with the pain and difficulty of organizing such a thing, we have given them such a great gift. So please sign up for that by email to the admin email address. We did invite Walton's Funeral Home to come at the tail end. They promised to bring lunch, so it's hard to yeah. They also work well with us. They allow all of our Buddhist traditions and practices at the cremation service and all these things. Some funeral homes are not able to adapt to our differences, so that's why we kind of singled them out. So please sign up for that. Those are the announcements. Thank you so much, friends.